just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number 1, California, you in danger, girl. Well, my friends, if the midterm elections look anything, and I mean anything, like what we saw in California, we in danger, honey. The recall election against reformer District Attorney Chesa Boudin was successful. Karen Bass is heading into a runoff with Rick Caruso for the mayor of the city of Los Angeles. And Jennifer Aniston lost to Liz Ortega in a very odd move organized by organized labor, which we finna get into in a minute. Now, I want to do a little bit of a post-mortem here so that we understand what we're working with, why that happened, and what we can do about it. So, dear ones, first things first. The majority of the turnout in California was age 60 and above. Campaigns that don't target, much less energize voters that aren't likely to turn out are doomed. I'm going to say some uncomfortable shit right now, and you will just have to forgive me because the Lord knows my heart, and also so do you. In real talk, people who love you will tell you the whole ass truth. Now, on Chesa, he had big problems from the start, from the get-go. Number 1, he didn't shore up what should have been his base of support. Now, the activists and organizers and folks on the left were already going to support him. He was up against a machine of NIMBYs and the police who literally just stopped policing in San Francisco because they were protesting him being there. This whole narrative about crime on the rise is problematic, not because crime isn't happening, but because it was a red herring that people ate up. He was painted as soft on crime, which is a very typical approach and one that we should be prepared for already because they always use that shit, always. Now, first off, your car window getting broken is hardly crime. It's annoying and it's frustrating, but in a city like San Francisco where there is such a wide gap between people who have and people who don't, what do y'all expect? But I digress. Chesa's major problem is that he talked big shit but didn't do big shit. His team didn't ride for him, and he wasn't great at taking advice or, frankly, taking stands. Now, how do I know? I know this from personal experience. Now, Lady backed Chesa in his first race and then brought him an earnest appeal from Black folks in San Francisco to hold a greedy developer accountable through a division of his office that basically deals with white-collar crime. Yeah, well, he dragged his feet and did all of nothing on that, except ask me to endorse him again. Now, this is merely one example, but it's not the only example. His tough on crime thing came too late, and he couldn't articulate a plan to actually handle business, including the management of his own office. So, to be seen as a reformer, you gotta actually work on reform, and then talk about it in a way that appeals to more people than the people who are already gonna vote for you. He needed to appeal to the NIMBYs with common sense solutions and not a bunch of bullshit. 3 things, not 80 things. He needed stronger relationships in impacted communities, not politician type shit, and not just the activist relationships with, truth be told, those weren't that robust either. He needed to double down on exposing the San Francisco Police Department for their ineptness, and he needed to propose reforms. Some of that shit is not even the purview of his office, and people need to know that. Like, literally. I mean, how you finna have a crew of people that gets paid to do a job and they just don't do it? And then they flex on you, allegedly, for not doing yours? That's some clown shit. Now, he needed to redirect and help people get clear about what could have been the future of San Francisco. But when the mayor don't back you and has her own compelling narrative about communities being impacted by crime and violence, when you got the police after you, and the no regulations Elon Musk type libertarians against you, that's a strong win, child. And now hopefully folks are talking about who got next, because guaranteed those folk got somebody ready to not actually be the people's attorney. On Bass versus Caruso, well, child, that's a head scratcher. Bass catapulted to Congress from her organizing work in South LA, and then promptly attempted to stand for not that much and distance herself from how she got to Congress in the first place. So much so that Snoop backed the white man. Kim Kardashian, protege of reformer Van Jones, backed the white man to her more than 300 million followers. Bass led the charge for police reform with kente cloth and kneeling. Fix it, Jesus. But can Lady be honest here for a minute? Lady invited Bass on this show to talk about her campaign when she announced she was running almost a year ago. She declined multiple times. And this isn't personal, but it's political. Who have you been talking to for the last year? And more than that, who has been talking about you and all the good you finna do? Lady stay on the socials and wasn't nobody talking about her until a week ago. And what I know is that a campaign final push and crisis management, when Snoop and Kim Kardashian and a bunch of other LA influentials start talking about the white man, beloveds, that does not a campaign strategy make. Activation begins the moment a campaign begins, and all those choices about who is activated are political. They communicate your values and who you're going to fight for. And when people from 18 to 55 don't see a reason to vote, you focus on giving them a reason, not being the least controversial person they ever might come across. Next on our list is Jennifer Aniston, who we had on this show, and she did not win her race. Another Labor candidate came in and organized a very expensive independent expenditure against her. Basically, her own team organized against her. That's some shit. I mean, sometimes it be your own people. Now, why am I saying all this? Well, for a few reasons. First. Y'all, the Republican base is energized. They come at us the same way every fucking time. We're pissed off, but we're not energized. So we got to flip the script. And I feel like a broken record when I say this, but at least I'm consistent. The way to energize people to vote is to make sure people get something out of it. And I'm not talking about what happens when you go to the doctor and get a shot and they give you a lollipop, okay? I'm not talking about that. I am talking about turning up the heat on people who feel like they can blow smoke up your ass every time they need your vote. That's some bullshit, and let me just say it, and say it plain, you deserve some substance, my friends. The Republican base is energized because they are getting what they want out of politics. Meet people's needs and they will show up for you. Plain and simple. For Republicans, they have no real substantive political agenda to improve people's lives, but they give their people what they need. A boogeyman to blame for their lack of a political agenda. Now, what are we putting on the table, my loves? Are we just fucking around with facts and figures? That shit don't work. Anyways, okay, that's my rant. We're going to come back to that shit next week. Anywho, here's what we want more of this week. Number 1, visits from my friends. So let me tell you what's been getting Lady through the last few months. And it's been quite a few months. Visits from my homies. Yes. Lady is settling in over here. I'm making a house a home and doing it with a little help from my friends. From porch sessions to decluttering sessions to just people I can shed tears with and say, I'm actually really good, but also this shit is really hard. Look, Lady is very grateful. There's a whole lot of shit we deal with in the world, from breakups to what the fucks to big changes. And I am proud to say my crew is one of the best around. Other things Lady loves this week, Patrick Lyoya, killer, is charged with second-degree murder. Now, y'all remember that case we talked about a few months ago where Patrick Lyoya, a 26-year-old black man, was shot in the back and killed after a traffic stop in Grand Rapids, Michigan? Well, the cop in question, Officer Christopher Schur, was charged this week with second-degree murder. Now, why do we love to see this? Well, we love to see it because, frankly, police should be held accountable when they commit crimes in our communities. And shooting somebody in the back and they're unarmed when the reason you stopped them in the first fucking place is because they didn't have the right registration, that should most certainly, absolutely, definitely be a crime. Let me tell y'all something. I lived in Oakland for most of my adult life. I've lived in the Bay my whole life in Black, brown, and Asian neighborhoods. I saw police every day, multiple times a day, doing all kinds of foul shit. Now, where I live now in Georgia, I've been here almost 3 months, honey, and I have not one time, seen a police car. Not once. So here's the truth of the matter. Communities with white people are policed differently than communities with black people. Nobody should die because they ain't got the right registration. And if somebody is running from the police unarmed, they should live to tell the story. So this is on Ladies We Like It list because it's high fucking time that police stopped getting away with literal murder. We're going to talk about this January 6th commission next week, but suffice it to say, for now, that lady loves. I reserve the right to change my mind after I finish watching it. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Ladies Love Notes, where we give you all of the real about being single and dating in your 40s. Now, let me be honest. I wasn't finna do a love notes this week because, my love life just isn't really lifing right now. And to be honest, that's okay with me. I'm enjoying doing what I want when I want. Waking up alone is actually lovely. I have the entire bed to myself. Ain't no memories in my bed either. The shit is brand fucking new. So, I don't be laying there remembering nobody in it or thinking about why nobody ain't in it. I don't have to clean up after anybody but myself. And having no love to speak of, honestly, for me right now, is better than being heartbroken. And y'all know I have been heartbroken. But this week I decided that instead of foregoing the love notes, I'm going to keep that shit popping because there is something valuable in this whole being alone thing. So look, being alone is different than being lonely. And trust, I do get lonely sometimes. But I, as somebody who likes to spend time with myself, am enjoying being alone, even when I'm lonely. And the more I do it, especially after this weird-ass, hard-ass year, the more I know that when I do finally decide to share my time with someone again, I'll be investing in me because I really like how it feels. For 17 years, I was with someone pretty much every day of the week. It's hard to carve out alone time even though it's necessary. And so when that ended, I fucked around and fell in love with someone, and I feel like I've been carrying that around also every single day. Yes, the initial euphoria of it, but also the pain of it when it ended and kept ending. I mean, it's really the back and forth for me. Back and forth with somebody who ain't ready to end that cycle is literally excruciating. Now, my therapist says that there's something underneath that needs to get taken care of when you do that kind of back and forth shit. Like, there's a need that isn't being met from you somewhere. So you keep going back and forth with somebody or something because you trying to meet a need, but maybe it's just you that can meet that need. All week, I've been racking my brain and my heart about this. What is that need? What is it that I'm trying to take care of? My ex was just here visiting me in my new home. It's been exactly a year since we broke up, and it was basically serendipity that we would find ourselves together on the 1-year anniversary of us deciding to go our separate ways and be the best of friends. It was a lovely visit, if you're wondering, and it was a good opportunity for us to connect, honestly, away from all the things that we used to share. Now we were connecting in my new home and learning about each other in new ways. No more remnants of the old stuff. We had one of the most honest conversations that we've had in months about our breakup, what dating has been like, and how to take care of each other's hearts now that our relationship is in a new form. I honestly loved every second of it. We were talking, and I was telling them about this latest heartbreak debacle, and they asked me literally the same question that my therapist did. Why do you keep going back? And before I knew it, an answer came out that I just did not even anticipate, which was, I thought I found someone who I could stand still with for a minute. And you know that does not happen to me often. I don't even like a lot of people. And so I'm just having a really hard time letting that go. And it was in that moment that I understood the difference between being alone and being lonely. I'm not afraid of being alone. I actually quite like it. I'm afraid of being lonely. I really, really liked that man. I loved him even. And I worry sometimes that I'm not going to find someone like him. I mean, there were all of these ways in which we fit. But the ways that we don't fit matter too. And they have a cost that I'm just not willing to pay anymore. So I think a lot of us who are dating in our 40s, especially after a relationship that was meaningful, we have to adjust to being alone and fight the creeping despair of being lonely. I had a conversation with a new friend this weekend about this exact same thing. She loved a man that she had to let go. And for all the right reasons, she let his ass go. It's a good thing. But what keeps us coming back, if and when we do, is not wanting to be lonely. Wanting to know that there's someone out there for us who could be all the things we loved in the previous person we had to let go, but none of the things that were painful. It reminded me of a conversation that I once had with this very man that I loved. I told him that I thought that he was in a select class of few people that I have really, truly, deeply loved. I've been fortunate enough to have 3 of those loves in my lifetime. Those deep, soul-shaking, life-altering loves. The first was my first love, and to this day, I love him dearly. I mean, he was at my wedding. He was my first real deal heartbreak, my first soul-shaking love. The second was my ex. 17 years together is no joke, and we will love each other deeply for the rest of our whole entire ass lives. And then there was this man. And even though we're not together and likely won't be together for the foreseeable future, we found each other and we were meant to find each other. I've only felt love like that 3 times in my whole life. But also, I've gotten to feel love like that 3 fucking times. And that means it's still totally possible to feel it again. Even through my heartaches, all systems are fully fucking functioning. And I am grateful for the capacity to love in that way. So the love note here is this. Love after love is 100% possible, even if it fucked you up and turned you all the way inside out. And while you're waiting for the next love to arrive, make sure you shore up a few things in you. The ability to be alone and like it, and to fight like hell when you get afraid of being lonely. Being afraid will have you limiting your choices, blocking your blessings, and taking less than you deserve. But when you don't fear being lonely, when you like being alone, you can say yes to someone from a place of strength and stability because you got you no matter what. And they get the privilege and the pleasure of sharing with you, but only when you're ready and only when they've shown that they can actually show the fuck up and stay showing up. You see how that works? You gotta love therapy. I highly, highly recommend it. Here's to being alone and not afraid of being lonely.